Showtime.
It's about that time.
Let's go.
You're right where you need to be. This is GCOM Radio.
Hardest radio station on the planet. Yeah.
Powered by Lyfeblood.com.
We certified.
And hosted by Nova Phoenix.
Give them that flavor.
Oh man, all right, guys. All right. We are in here. What is going on? Hello, folks. Thank you for coming to checking out this show here on GCOM Radio on, oh man, forget all that. I'm disappointed. I'm keeping it real with you guys. I am super bummed out today. I'm not in the mood. And I'm upset with myself. And I'm upset with the process as far as the voting is concerned. I'm just not into it for this show. But I'm going to give you a short show. Yeah, a short one because of the fact that that I've been busy. I've been really, I have my hands in a lot of different things. And hopefully by the next show, I'm going to have something more for you so I can explain what's happening. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I try not to talk too much about things that I'm doing because my thing is I like to get all my ducks in a row before I mention it. But yeah, I have my hands on a lot of different things. The one thing you guys definitely know is getting funding for the brand for Lyfeblood.com. Really doing my homework with that and spending my time doing that. And a lot of other things. And, the personal, the professional, it spills over in the family. Sometimes I don't spend as much time as I should. But that's just what it is when you're on this journey. And I piss a lot of people off. I certainly do piss a lot of people off. But I'm hoping all this hard work that I'm putting in, that, all of this can... all of this is not for granted or just could work out for the better. And all that time that I do miss, and you can never really get that time back, but at least all the time that I have missed, I can try to do something when the opportunity opens up again, and I can say, okay, I'm here. So that's one thing. But the other thing that really got me bummed out is this whole voting thing. And I'm just going to roll right into the show. So I don't know if I'm going to give you 35 or 45 minutes of myself. Who knows? Let's see what we come out with for show 115. All right, so let's just get right into it. All right, I'm fucked up, bummed out because a little bit of me, I messed up this whole thing as far as the voting concerned. I've spoke about it on the show before, running up for the primaries, the New York primaries for the next mayor. And this is the problem. I have my head down low so much doing what I do, a lot of things get left to the side. So it's just not family, but there's a lot of things other than the non-business that, I kind of like dropped the ball. And I dropped the ball on the voting part. What do I mean? What I mean is the voting, I won't be able to vote this primary. And I knew that for a long time. See, I'm an independent. I am a registered independent. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I made this decision because I knew there were certain things that I just didn't align with on either side. And I thought it was important to represent that in how I register as a voter in New York City. But because of that, I cannot vote in the primary for a lot of different reasons that the powers that be wants it to be that way, where you can only be a Democrat or a Republican when you're voting in the primary. But this is the thing. Now, with the typical way how New York votes for political seats is that we have this primary to choose who's going to be the Democrat, to choose who's going to be the Republican out of those parties, similar to how the presidency goes. And then based on who wins in the primary, Democrat or Republican, then it will run up right over to November 2nd, 2021 to select who you want to have as mayor. And that's how it typically has gone. Now, I was a registered independent. I knew that I had some issues with voting, and I'm stubborn. I'm stubborn. I gotta say, y'all, I am stubborn in some ways, and I refuse to switch parties just to vote in the primary, but I did vote in the general election. And usually, general elections kind of went the way it has. It never really has gone too left. And I voted who I voted for in the general election. I've always voted as a New Yorker. I've always voted as an American citizen. But here's how it's different. So here I'm doing this research because I want to talk about it with you guys because we're in the midst of this early voting week before the actual primary day on June 22nd. So I'm doing my research, which I should have done weeks ago. So anyway, it turns out that New York decided that they want to do ranked choice voting. And everybody knows at this point what ranked choice voting is. Pretty much you're gonna instead of the typical way of voting as we understand it, Democrat, Republican, there's no Republicans for this time around. We're gonna do ranked choice voting where we're going to select 5 different choices from who we want in the number one slot down to the 5th to our least favorite. And based on this ranked choice voting, whoever comes out with 50% of that first choice voting will be the winner. Now, if that particular candidate doesn't end up with 50%, like 40%, whoever has the least votes will kind of bow out. And if I'm correct, those votes will go into your next favorite candidate. And then, of course, if that doesn't have the 50%, it'll continue on and on until someone comes out with 50% of that vote and they are chosen the winner. Now, that's the key word, quote unquote, winner. So I'm reading up on this ranked choice voting that we're doing for the first time, that it was chosen. They said about 71 to 72% of New Yorkers wanted to try this ranked choice voting just to get an opportunity for there to be an equal spread on which New Yorkers chose who they chose to be the next mayor or whatever particular seat that they wanted. So this ranked choice thing. So I kept on seeing this winner, and I'm reading, and sometimes I read real quick. I'll read their article, I jump to something else, I'll do my quick search in Google, jump to that so I can get an understanding. I was like, winner, and it kept on popping up winner. Because my brain, it was more, and I, of course, and you know what, and I got the letter as far as registering the vote. I have it here as far as what I should do in my district, and I have it, let me see here, and I had it for a long time sitting on my desk, and I'm handling everything else, and it says right here ranked choice voting, right? So I can't say that the New York City did not inform their voters on what was happening. But again, like I said, my head is always low, and then when I finally peel this envelope open, and that's when I'm like, huh, what? So yeah. Man. So winner, I'm seeing the Google winner. I'm like, what's going on? Because my brain is stuck on the way New York has done it before. So it turns out that in the way that I did it before, I didn't go in the primary, I voted in the general election. But with this ranked choice, the winner is the winner is the winner. So whoever is selected with 50% of the first choice votes, whoever that is, Eric Adams, Yang, Wiley, Garcia, such and so forth, whoever comes up with that 50% will be the winner of mayor. So I was like, wait a second, winner, that means I can't vote. So me in my mind, which is my fault in a lot of ways, in my action, I have pushed myself out in my ability to vote for mayor because my stubbornness to be an independent. But then it even got me even more upset because of the fact that because I'm an independent and looking up this information, independents are, as they say, the second biggest voting bloc in New York City, because a lot of people do not have chosen not to be a Democrat or a Republican. They have chosen to register as an independent. But there's a lot of flim-flam that they're talking about as far as the powers that be, saying that they don't want the opposing side to vote for the weaker candidate on the other side. and that will be some slick way where the opposing side would lose. So if a Republican voters pick a weaker candidate on the Democrat side, that Democrat candidate would win, which in turn they would lose to the stronger Republican candidate, right? That was the one of the excuses that they gave on why New York has decided to be a closed election. I think I have that right. A closed primary where they just won Democrat, Republican. But wait a second, it could be the same thing if you reverse it. Democratic voters could do the same thing on the Republican side, right? To the Republican Party. So again, I think that excuse is a little flimsy. For me personally, it shouldn't matter who I am as a registered voter, whether I'm a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. If I decide to choose who I want to choose, whoever makes the most sense for me in that moment, I should be able to vote. I should never be locked out of voting. I should never lose my right to vote for the person that I want. And like I said, I don't take a side of Democrat or Republican, because both sides to me has failed in a lot of different ways. And me as a voter, I'm just tired of the politics. I'm tired of the games. I'm tired of choices being made for me. I want to be able to pick the mayor that's going to run the city right, and not just for the ultra rich. It can be for every hardworking New Yorker. To me, how I've always felt the New York to be. Now, New York has had its hard times in the 70s and the 80s, and but it has gotten better, for better and worse. The city has gone on an upward trajectory. And that's debatable. Someone would say, well, upward trajectory for who? The ultra rich, because people are still, penny pinching. Yes. The city, as far as crime overall, how it was when I was coming up, has gotten better. There's less crime. As far as people would always have an ability to find jobs, and we have to deal with daycare, we have to deal with schooling, and there will always issue with the New York educational system, and people have figured out one way or another, even though it can be galactically better, our New York public educational system, people have found a way. What is a big problem in New York right now is money. Money, who has it and who doesn't. And the other big problem, of course, when it comes specifically to the African-American population, dealing with police brutality. But that is why I'm so upset, because I'm literally watching this go down without my involvement, and I'm pissed at myself that I didn't do what I had to do 3 weeks ahead. But I'm also pissed overall at the system, that they make it so hard for people to stand outside and say, you know what, you're not going to choose who the mayor should be, I'm going to choose. And that's something that I stand by wholeheartedly. I will put 10 toes down, and I will do what I can, even because of what I discovered, doing all this reading. I think that's going to be one of my pet projects to try. I'm going to try to speak to council members. I'm going to try to speak to anyone that's going to have an ear that New York should have an open primary. Independents should be able to choose who they want or should vote for in the primary. It shouldn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican. In the coming months, in the coming years, whoever is chosen to be the mayor, however this power is going to shift, whoever sits in these seats in comptroller, senator, and with the variety of different seats that's going to be coming up in November 2nd, 2021, I will try to do my best as a New Yorker to try to change that and have independents being able to vote in the primary. So I'm telling you, I'm really bummed out, and to know that I didn't jump on it much sooner. And I called the campaign, the Board of Elections, and and I spoke with the lady on the horn, and I went step by step slow, as far as how the old voting methods went and how we're doing it with this ranked choice, and me as an independent not being able to do anything now, not being able to do anything as far as what is going to happen June 22nd, which is, I'm telling you, it really got me bummed out. And I know there's a lot of independents. I looked up on the news. There's actually organizations that support independents being able to vote in the primary. So I will reach out to people. I'm going to do whatever I can to really change that around. I mean, people should vote regardless of what their political affiliation is. And I'll get a little bit more into what I feel is going on. I mean, people was roasting me, not roasting me. People just like, I responded. I think it was Ebro. Yeah, Ebro sent something out saying, what questions he should ask Andrew Yang. And I simply had my 2 cents to put in. But people, you got the Yang gang that was out there that was like, they were definitely out there being the opposing voice in what I said. And I simply said, he's taking super PAC money, which is very questionable. And they responded, well, everybody's taking super PAC money, and a lot of candidates, and he's gotten the most individual donations in the New York area. And so I simply said, he's going to come in fourth. And so far, people are going to say what they're going to say, but so far, yeah, I'm right. He is coming in fourth, because right now there's Eric Adams. Next is Garcia. Next is Wiley. She's kind of rising in the polls. And in fourth place is Yang. And it's super early right now. It's super early. Now, what I hear that they're going to really take these ballots and take them to some warehouse, and then they're going to do the counting. So, yeah. They say it's going to take a couple of weeks to figure out, to do a full count, to figure out this whole ranked choice process. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes down. And I'll get back to that. Anyway, man, super bummed out. And yeah, I played myself lovely, but I'm not going to beat myself too much. This only excites me even more to do what I got to do. What's going on here? Sorry, folks. I'm looking at something on my computer screen, and I don't know. Oh, there you go. There you go. All right. Yeah, next. Shock G. Of course, everyone knows he recently died unexpectedly, and it just came out that Shock G died of an overdose. He died of a mixture of fentanyl, I think it is, ethanol, and, if I'm correct, and methamphetamine. Very sad, man. Very sad to find out that this brother died from an overdose from a cocktail of drugs. I didn't even know that he was on it like that. For some reason, I thought he was clean. And they say that he died from it. And man, I mean, so many people die unexpectedly from overdoses. I don't know of the people that was around him or what was happening, but I'm just tired of hearing these icons, these legends, these stars that are dying so, unexpectedly from just overdoses, man. I don't know if he was in pain or depressed or anything like that, but and to find out when I was looking on my Twitter page, and I kind of shared it like last week or 2 weeks ago. I never knew that Shock G followed me, on Twitter. I never knew. If I knew that, man, I would have definitely reached out to this brother, man. And I wish I could have had a drink with him, sat down, had an interview with this brother. Sometimes when I talk on here, I don't know if I'm reaching a whole lot of people. What I guess it's not so much how many people you reach, but who you reach. And to me, it was an honor for Shock G to follow me. And it's something that I'm doing that pulled his interest that made him follow me. So big ups and rest in peace, Shock G, my brother. Thank you for everything on all your contributions to hip hop. Next one, Mayweather got robbed, man. Mayweather got robbed. He got $100,000. No, matter of fact, he's offering $100,000 to get back his items that were stolen from his house. Now, Mayweather be on top of the game when it comes to security. Wherever he goes, he always has top-notch security with him. So if he has top-notch security around him wherever he goes, I'm sure he has top-notch security at his home. And as much of the money he be flaunting and throwing around and having the money phone on his ear, and he had the stacks on the table, and he got $1 million clean, showing everybody in pictures, and that's I particularly, that's not my thing. If I was ever in a position like Mayweather, that's not something I would do. But to each their own. That's what he wants to do. Now, for this dude house to get robbed just like that, I don't know, man. It sounds like some inside work. Like how your stuff get robbed out of your house, man. Your cameras. I'm sure you got some security dogs. I'm sure you got bodyguards that's by the crib when you're not home. I mean, not just to check, to protect your valuables, but also the most valuable thing of all valuables is the family. Sure, they chilling, and I know you got security there to make sure they're safe. So when I heard about that and read up on that story that Mayweather's home got robbed, I'm like, how the hell that all happened with all? I know he got top notch. So I think it's some inside work. And usually when it comes to stuff like that, it's some inside work. Somebody knew that he the house didn't have any security, and the dogs are sleeping or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? So yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. So Elon Musk. Next, Elon Musk. So he says now in an article that he's gonna support Bitcoin. He's going to support Bitcoin, and he will get back on the horse of Bitcoin if they become more environmentally friendly. Can you imagine that? I was talking with someone, and it was like, what? Bitcoin. She don't know nothing too much about cryptocurrency, but, me getting into a brief description on why Elon Musk hopped off that horse of Bitcoin and got with Dogecoin. And she was like, isn't it digital? I'm like, yeah, I know. But that's what he says. That's what he says. That's what people talk about when you're mining coins, and then it could be an environmentally disastrous. So he's saying he'll get back with Bitcoin if they become more environmentally friendly. But hey, who knows? I don't know. He's on Dogecoin. He's riding that right to the moon, literally and figuratively. But yeah, he's got a new Tesla out, man. He's got a new Tesla out. It's called Plaid. Now, of course, he's got a lot of bells and whistles on this thing, because right now the EV market is heating up. The traditional brands are right behind Tesla. So you got Porsche, Mercedes, you got Lucid Motor, you got Polestar. There's a lot of different EV companies that are really or car brands that's really pushing their EV products, and there's just strictly EV companies that has their own vehicles that's putting it out there. So Elon is getting he's getting a little antsy here, man, because not that his Tesla is not great, just like what I felt with the iPhone. The iPhone was revolutionary when it first came out, but it's kind of lost its luster, not because iPhone is bad, because everybody else caught up. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with these cars, man. They're finally coming around that people want to drive electric vehicles, and Porsche and Ford and Mercedes, now they got their own brands, and I've seen them, man. They look hot. So yeah, man. Where he thought he was alone, now he's not so alone anymore. So hopefully with this Plaid, he's gonna really kick it up. Now the downside is, like Polestar, these vehicles are high priced, so the average person is not gonna buy them. But I do think the established brands like Ford, they're gonna come out with EVs that's gonna be, of course, cost effective for the people that want to purchase EV cars at an affordable price. So $35,000 is good, and Tesla has this $35,000, and I've seen a lot of Teslas, the $35K ones, on the road. But I don't understand why these car companies are coming out with these great EV vehicles, and they're just like $100,000, $90,000. Not the average person is going to be able to purchase that, but I guess, I don't know, who knows why they doing it. All right, so the next thing is what do I got here? Oh yeah, speaking of Bitcoin, El Salvador and Paraguay is stepping up and making moves. They plan to make Bitcoin its legal currency. They're of course just sending shockwaves. The IMF is already stating that they have a problem with that for obvious reasons. But I think it's a beautiful thing that Paraguay is making moves and El Salvador to try to make it legal tender in the state. And I'm sure it's not as far as, switching over and everybody's using Bitcoin, but it always starts with a creep in. It always starts in with a small percentage, and as it becomes more established, it'll just take over. Now, this is a problem as much as people say, it's not a big deal. They're just like really, dibble and dabbling. It's really not the whole 100% of their economic engine. But yeah, that's true. But it's the canary in the cave, man. I wouldn't say use that analogy. It's more like, let's just say it's a start. And usually when you make a little ripples about what you're doing as far as what they're doing with Bitcoin, there's going to be other countries that are just all of a sudden they just swivel their head. They was like, huh? What? Brazil's looking, Colombia's looking, who else? Africa's looking, China's looking. Well, now China's not looking too much because they said they weren't going to really deal with cryptocurrency. But that decision can switch. China will eventually look when you have the country with a larger economy saying that they're going to make it legal tender. Oh man! So I think this is just the trickle, the little trickles, little drips that's going to start into a steady stream of people saying, let me switch over. And a lot of countries already are talking about, like India, as I said on the show before. We have Nigeria that they said they're going to start testing their own cryptocurrency. I don't even know what happened with Akon. Akon has his own coin that he wants to really build a city somewhere in West Africa. It's in Senegal, of course, in his country, Senegal. So, I mean, there's a lot of people that are just starting, and I think it's great. And I'm looking forward to it. We can have more of a decentralized economic system where everybody can have a healthy economy. Let's see what happens. Of course, you're going to have the economists and the experts. They're going to start, bucking the system. They're going to say, no, that's terrible. And, they're already saying it, the critics, saying that cryptocurrency is unreliable. But whatever, man. People are going to move forward. Let's see what happens. Big ups to Paraguay. Big ups to El Salvador, man. Yeah. Next, Polo G, man. Polo G down in Florida. This bruh, he had just dropped his new album. I forgot. Let me see the name of this dude's new album. Polo G is Polo G Police. Let's see here. So Polo G just dropped an album. And the name of this album is album release, album drop. I didn't write down the name of his album. Let me see. His album is called, oh my God, these paywalls. I hate them, man. I hate paywalls because I'm trying to get to the article and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're not going to read the rest of this article. You're going to have to pay us $3.99. What's the name of this brother's album? Polo G album. Following him, 17 team. I'm saying he's in Miami, Florida. I want to get his album out there because I want to promote his album. I just don't want to talk about the police. Name of album. But because of course, if we're going to talk about Polo G, you might as well help put some money in this brother's pockets. His album is called Hall of Fame. And he just released it. It was released June 11th, 2021. So he came in to do his album release party. He left. He was going to go to the after party. And the next thing you know, 20 squad cars pull up on Polo G's car. And he got arrested for allegedly getting into altercation with the police that arrested him. Now, how we found out is because it was shared. His mother and manager was talking about it in the next car over, and she pointed her camera, her iPhone or whatever phone she was using, to Polo G's car to the block where he got pulled over by. I mean, they had it was 20 police cars out there surrounding Polo G's car. Man, yo, listen. I mean, really? They were wasting that much city money, taxpayer money to surround Polo G. So then, of course, the mother was going off on her rant, and she walked up close to the vehicles. And, of course, they always got the brothers, man. They always got the or he's got the coons. They was like, oh, no, ma'am, no, just step back. Oh, we're doing an investigation. And they always say that shit, we're doing an investigation. What type of investigation are you doing where you need 20 police squad cars out there surrounded? Mind you, he had his little brother in the vehicle with him, either one or two other brothers. One was 16, he was underage, and the mother was trying to go and get her son out from what was happening. And a couple of black police officers, they stood in between the mother, Polo G's mother, and the family, and the white police officers, and it was just saying, oh no, we're doing the best. I'm like, what? Yo. And this is what we're talking about. And this is why I'm so honored as far as what we're doing up here in New York. Because again, why do you need so many police cars around? Unless this dude is moving major keys from Colombia to Miami, then fine. But this guy came in to do his album release party, and then went to go to the after party to live his life, man, to be successful. And now you have all these Miami police running up on him. Crazy. And again, this is why, and I'm gonna get to that soon. This is why I'm so, like, as far as who I want to pick for mayor. Yeah. Let me do something right quick. Let me get something here. I just want to get these names right. Let me see if there is a list. All right. So stick with me, folks. Stick with me. And okay, we got, I wish it was like a shorter list here. All right, so there you go. All right, everybody knows how I feel with based on the last debate that happened, who I was picking. But yeah, so we are getting into this, and it happens to be the next and final thing on this list. Before I get out of here, yeah, man, like I said, it was a short one. So yeah, so Eric Adams. So it seems like he's at the top of the list, right? We're on like popcorn. It's popping. All right, we popping like popcorn. Okay, we're on to this next thing, which makes sense. It's the last thing on the list, and I'm glad that this is the last thing, because I want to get out of here. I just got some things to do. Anyway, so we're on to this. So Eric Adams, the primaries is on, early voting is on. Eric Adams is at the top of the list, and yeah, as it was expected. So, I mean, how I felt before, as what I saw at that debate, in the debate that was on Channel 7 News, and you had all the candidates talking their talk, speaking in their speaking points, and you know, all of them are Democrats, all of them are, some are progressive, some are leaning progressive, some of them are just trying to sway the minds of the people that are watching so they could get that vote. So it's not as simple as it may seem. Like you have a Republican on one side and then you have a Democrat on the other. They're all going to say the same thing. And as I said before, you have to listen to what they're saying, what they're not saying, who's backing them, and how they're moving in the streets of New York. Okay. So Eric Adams is at the beginning. So I did a little research on Eric. You know, I know Eric from back in the day. He's a borough president. He used to be a cop for many years, and he was running the 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement to help support the black community in the message of dealing with police brutality and everything that the NYPD was doing in black and brown communities. So yeah, so I am familiar with Eric Adams, but you know, him doing what he's doing and as running for mayor, as I said, there's a lot of red flags that's popping up. A lot of red flags. Let's see that red flag sign. Let's see if he's coming. Oh, there you go. All right. So Eric Adams is doing this interview on Bloomberg News by Howard Wolfson. This was released back in February 22nd, 2021. So again, I'm fully aware of who Eric Adams is and his background. But then when the interviewer was asking him questions about the police issue, this is where my red flag was going up for him. So when he was asked what he was going to do about crime, what does he say? He said he will institute a new anti-crime unit which will focus on street level guns. Red flag number one. Yes, red flag. Whenever you hear the words, we're going to start an anti-crime unit, it makes me think all we're going to do is get right back on the street and do the same usual business in black communities and brown communities. Nothing's going to change. Now, of course, he's going to say, no, we're going to do a little different. So they're going to say, he's going to say whatever he wants to do to smooth things over for you. But again, these words that are being used makes me put up red flags on this guy on what is actually going to happen on the streets of New York. Now, just a little background. So back in the day, I used to be part of an organization many years ago in my early 20s. It was a Malcolm X grassroots movement. And of course, it dealt with all the issues of what black people was going through. And I did Cop Watch, right? So I was there. So I'm very aware of stop and frisk, of what was happening during that time with Giuliani around that time, and what black people were going through and how detectives were running up on just brothers chilling on the stoop, kicking it, doing what they're doing. And I was around in the car and recorded it on everything that was happening. I'm fully aware, and I'm skipping over a lot of stuff. So I'm fully aware of how stop and frisk was used in the black community to just pretty much jail black people. Now, everybody, as far as there's about, we make up a certain percentage of New York, but the majority of the people that were getting locked up were black and brown folks. Somehow white people don't commit crimes in New York City. I guess, they're just somehow genetically better or just have a higher moral standard. Yeah. So I'm fully aware of all the data. The data is online. There were a lot of, not just MXGM, but there were a lot of other grassroots organizations that were fighting, doing the good fight on trying to deal with stop and frisk, and pretty much stopping that program because a lot of the people in the black community were hurting because of that. So he's saying he wants to reinstitute an anti-crime unit. Big red flag. Okay, so I'm like, okay, that's number one. So now what he wants to do, he wants to put more cops at port authorities, including bus terminals and other locations where they will do quote unquote random checks to stop the flow of guns into the city, because they're talking about there's an illegal gun pipeline that's going into New York that's raising or contributing to the higher gun violence in New York City. Now, folks, I'm from New York City, born and bred in Brooklyn. I know when there was a problem in Brooklyn when it comes to gun issues and gun violence. And not from where I am, that because it don't happen in my area, gun violence doesn't happen. Yes, of course, there's 8 million people in the city, but New York City, how it was in the 80s and early 90s, is not the New York City of today. It's not. So when they say gun violence, and I was there for the talk, as far as what NYPD was saying, it's funny because they'll shift the argument or the conversation in front of the news cameras to fit their narrative. Now they'll say crime is on the way down overall in New York City. We're doing a great job as far as what the mayor will be talking about or whatever, DA, whatever they're talking about. Oh, crime is down, not what it was in the late 70s, early 80s. But then, of course, when you have a police union or you have a commissioner or we're talking about, trying to keep those numbers up as far as the NYPD, they say, oh my God, crime is on the rise. We need more cops. So my thought was I literally watched both sides of this argument happening in front of me on television. So, okay, wait a second. Is crime going down or is crime going up? Is crime going down and the city is doing well overall, or is crime going up and we need more cops on the street? Which argument are we taking here? And I heard it come from the police commissioner himself and the NYPD union leader, whatever his name is. I forgot the guy's name is. So I'm there and I'm just there sitting in the back on my couch like, really? Come on. All right. So red flag, a big red flag for me when he says he wants to do random checks. But because in these random checks, who do they randomly check? Black and brown youth. Okay. So here we get into this talk. Gang violence. Oh my God. So we're going to deal with gang violence. So when we say, we already know what gang violence means. The code word when you say gang violence, again, you're talking about black and brown people. The youth. Who run the gangs? Yes, the warlords. The like back in the 1980s hip hop joint. I forgot the name, whatever. So that's what we're talking about. So he says, and I'm gonna read a quote out of this article. We need to go on the ground and identify the gangs. Use crisis management teams. Okay, that's what he says. I have been meeting with gang leaders for the last year and a half. We need to go after the leaders, bring long-term RICO criminal actions against them, breaking up the crews and really zeroing in on these gangs, what we call precision policing. Red flag, holla at me, man, red flag. What we're really doing is restarting stop and frisk all over again. Now, how can you not see in between and read between the lines on this one when you're talking about gang violence? Now he did mention crisis management teams, and that was brought up before. There are other progressives that brought that up, but I think he just threw that word in there to kind of seem like progressive. But they're not going to do no crisis management team. We're not going to do that. We're just going to put more police in black and brown neighborhoods, and we're going to do the same thing we've been doing since decades over, since stop and frisk. And they'll call it some other name. They'll call it, hey, we're going to fit. And I've said this before on the show, that I figured that they're going to use the anti-Asian crime bill in ways to target my black and brown. Because all you see, and I say on the daily news too, and I've been on Twitter, all you see is black people just accosting Asian people as if black people are the source of anti-Asian hate, and out of nowhere. It's the black people's the source of this. So I was always very curious because it passed in the Senate first. The problems where everything gets stopped in the Senate, it passed in the Senate first, and I'm like, this is how they're going to use it against black folk and brown people, guaranteed. So, and it's funny, there was a case that happened before on that, and I can't remember the case, but I can't remember. Some guy ran up in a store or something, and he was getting pushed out, and he said something, allegedly he said something towards an Asian person, and automatically got hit with the hate crime charge. Automatically got hit with a hate crime charge. But remember when I brought up that white guy that was upstate New York that literally hocked in the face of an old Asian woman and called her names, and she said it, and she right in her face, and she did not go to the police right away, but her daughter encouraged her to go to the police. When she went to the police, they arrested the man later, and then what happened? What did the DA do? They released him. They didn't even get the guy on assault. He spit in her face during COVID. Forget pushing her back and headbutting her to when she fell back on her head. Spit in her face during COVID and didn't even get an assault charge. Now, let's not even go into the anti-Asian. He didn't even get an assault charge put on him, and he was let go. This is what I'm talking about. This is how you use laws. This is how laws is biased, and how it works one way for black people and a whole other way for white folks. So he continues to say, he goes into the incarceration, like the reading and writing, and I'm talking about Eric, this gentleman right here, Eric Adams. He goes on with this interview talking about the people who are incarcerated have a deficiency in reading and writing. And he says a lot of this is attributed to kids in foster care, that when they're not properly dealt with in foster care or raised correct in foster care, that it's leading them to get into crime, and then later, of course, getting massively incarcerated and thrown into jails, right? Because of foster care. I'm like, huh? What the hell does... So what he wants as his solution, and I think I know why he said this. So he said what he's going to do, he's going to invest $50 million. So instead of these young kids that have these reading and writing deficiencies in foster care, instead of them aging out of foster care at 21, this $50 million is going to allow them to age out at a much later year at 26 years old. So in that way, they'll be able to graduate from high school, and then eventually it gives them a road pathway to college, and then they'll have a better life. And I'm like, wait a second, whoa. I got some issues with what he just said. I'm like, wait a second. First off, we're gonna say, how do we jump from foster care, kids aging out at 21 and going right into jail? Now, how are we connecting these two different concepts? That's number one. Number two, just because you want to throw $50 million at people so they can age out at 26 instead of 21. Again, how does this funnel them or direct them to go to college? That just because you age out at 26 and have more of an opportunity and time to go to high school, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go to college. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a quality life. So saying you're going to give $50 million to kids so they can age out at a later date in foster care, and that way they won't go to jail. What type of flights of fancy? What crazy ass, oh my God, Disney bullshit are we talking about? Red flag. What are we talking about? What does one have to do with the other? What do kids in foster care have to do with people in jail? Now, kids don't just sit around in foster care. They just pop out of nowhere. No, they've had dysfunctional pasts in broken homes. That's how they end up in foster care. They have people that made bad choices for whatever reason, because they're, keep it real, poor, because most kids in foster care comes from individuals that made poor choices because they didn't have any money. So you have the youth that's 16 years old, has a kid, or we have a woman that's strung out on drugs, has a low wage job, can't raise her kids, so she takes them to foster care. And usually when you have situations like that, they from broken homes, whether the kids are abused, it could be sexual abuse, it could be physical abuse, it could be any verbal abuse, anything, and that's how they end up in foster care. So you have bigger problems than just seeing if they age out at a later date. We're dealing with mental issues. We're talking about trauma from their young years of being from broken homes. We don't need $50 million to go so they can age out at a later date and possibly go to college. What we need to is take that $50 million and we need to give it to people to have a better life, better program, job programs, educational programs where they can get skills, where we can notice what the root cause of the problem is when we come into disenfranchised communities, so we can keep these kids from going into foster care. You just don't say, well, I'm going to throw money at foster kids so they can age out later, so maybe they'll go to college, maybe they'll finish high school. What the fuck is he talking about? Red flag. Red flag. You have to invest in communities, in job training programs, mental health programs where they can talk with psychologists, deal with their past trauma, specific educational programs that can help direct them in life. I'm not just talking about feel-good politics. That's what he was probably doing. It's feel-good politics. I think he did that so he can trying to like smooth out what he wants to do as far as with NYPD putting more cops on the street. He kind of threw that in there to make it seem like he's more progressive. But what he said didn't make any sense. Red flag. So my thing is, if you really want to deal with the ills of poor communities, it's a three-pronged attack strategy: investment, education, and crisis management teams or mental health teams. Not saying you don't need cops. I like the idea of precision policing, smart policing. Okay, I'm with that. You need them in Times Square. You need them in certain areas because you're not going to just all of a sudden snap your fingers and then you're going to have violence just disappear. I'm not saying that. They'll just take police officer. No, I'm not saying that. But it's about investment, education, and crisis management teams, dealing with people with mental health issues, dealing with people from broken homes. If someone's robbing the bank, yeah, you need police. But when it comes to quality of life, you need an alternative team to deal with that. Maybe have police as a backup, because you're not going to send someone with a pad going to a home. There's an issue happening in a home, and you're just going to send this person from a crisis management team with a pencil and pad. Now have the police there as backup if need be. Now remember that 16-year-old Makia Bryant? She was shot by the cop because the cop thought the cop saw that she had a knife in her hand, so he just reacted and shot her. He didn't use his taser or anything like that. So imagine if you had a crisis management team going in right away, know the community, talking with the kids, and having the guy there as backup if anything gets too crazy. But you want to first deal with conflict resolution. That's the first thing you want to deal with. This is what people are talking about when it comes to defunding the police. Let's take some of that money and let's put it in areas where it's going to revitalize these communities. So you just don't send out cops as the only answer. It's a hammer that hits a nail on everything. Just take this big ass hammer, this Acme hammer, and then you got a nail popped up, hit it with that, hit it with that, hit it with that. More cops, more squad cars, more Polo G situations where you got 20 police cars going after one dude, and it happens up here, man. You got one situation that jumps off in the hood, in the community, and all of a sudden you got like 7 cop cars. I'm like, really? Where y'all came from? I know what was happening. Y'all was just twiddling your thumbs, ain't doing dick, ain't doing shit, and all of a sudden you hear it on the radio and you want to jump in and do something. That's called an overblown police budget. When you just have extra personnel for no damn reason. Someone calls with a hangnail, all of a sudden you got 7 squad cars and like a whole army of dudes surrounding one person. Really? That's up in here in New York. That's what happened to Polo G down there, whatever happened. Shout out to Polo G. So this is what we need to do. Now, he says, we got to deal with this gun pipeline thing, that he wants to have a tri-state program, whatever, because the guns are coming in from outside of New York, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's good. We got to deal with gun violence. Okay, I'm with that. But the thing is, what gets me is Eric didn't offer any alternative plan other than police. Whenever journalists ask the question, what are you going to do as mayor in regards to crime? And the answer is always the same. We're going to get more police. More police. We're going to do more police. We're going to put police out there. We're going to get more police equipment. We're going to get more police cars. We're going to get more police personnel. More police. We're just going to rain down police and deal with crime. That's not the answer. I'm at an age where I understand what the problem is no money. That's what it is. There's no proper support system to bring people out of poverty, to bring people out of the doldrums that they're in. That's why crime happens. It just don't pop out of nowhere. I always said, and I said with Batman, and I thought about it in GCOM. I'm like, one of my favorite, and I said it, I'm saying it again, man. I love Batman. Batman is one of my favorite DC comic book characters. But I always thought about it for a second, and I was like, wait a second. Bruce Wayne could do more good in Gotham City than Batman ever could. Batman smashes people, break bones, bleed out. He sends them to fucking Arkham Asylum. He sends them to the Black Gate. That's Batman, and it's fun and it's cool. I'm like, wow, this dude is a vigilante. He going about his business. But Bruce Wayne could do more with the wealth that he has. He puts goddamn satellites around the earth. 7, mind you. He has 7 satellites. So he could take some of that money and he could pour it into Gotham and revitalize Gotham with just one signature on a fat fucking check. As rich as Bruce Wayne is. But it's the same thing in real life. It's the same thing in New York. You don't need more police. What you need is for people to care about others. And I'm not saying give handouts. Give people skills. Let them go and figure out a skill. Let them learn a trade. Let them get into the tech field. Invest in entrepreneurs, in black founders, in brown founders. Get these kids off the street summertime. They can learn how to swim, play basketball, learn a skill, how to balance a checkbook. I'm doing old school things. Talk like ain't nobody using a checkbook. You know what I'm talking about. Give some sort of mental health support to people in poor communities, because when you down and out, you ain't got no money, and your man kicking your ass and your mama kicking your ass, and all of a sudden that is from historical background trauma because they got their ass kicked and they passing that on to the kids. Those people need help. So it's an amalgamation of it. It's a fusion of a lot of different, a series of a lot of different things. What makes the hood? What makes them depressed? What makes them feel that they don't have options? And you don't need a cop fucking throwing down and putting anybody in a goddamn illegal chokehold. Maybe they want to have to sell no more goddamn cigarettes. That's what I'm talking about. That's what people are talking about defund, but they'll mismatch the argument. They'll mismatch the message. Because at the end of the day, it's about putting police on there, and it's about corralling and controlling and dominating. That's all police is there for. Like what happened in Washington Square Park. Out of nowhere, all of a sudden, because they wanted to deal with the vagrancy of the people hanging out in Washington Square Park. Because supposedly, I think that's what they were saying, that the people would complain. All of a sudden, you have an invading army of police on this, and it was supposedly cleared by Mayor de Blasio. Now, I always said, and I said it on my Twitter, wow, what a way to go for the NYPD. Perfect choice, man. Perfect choice that they made. I think it was a beautiful decision for the NYPD to invade Washington Square Park and do what they did to those people back then about 2 weeks ago. And such a time when people are voting for, man. Thank you, NYPD, because it makes me realize that when you get the go ahead, that you were going to come in with the billy clubs out, ready to knock people over the head, to push them out. Who gives a damn about human rights? So you're going to play all that nice business on camera and say, hey, police wants to work with the people in the community. But when given the go-ahead, you ready to invade like a bunch of Nazis. And you're seeing some camera footage of a guy smiling, really enjoying it like he was at a circus. Like he was at some Barnum and Bailey Big Ten affair. He was smiling. He was enjoying himself. So look at that shit what I'm talking about. So I'd say it was a blessing in disguise. Maybe and Mayor de Blasio was giving a gift to the people. I'm interpreting it in that way. Because it doesn't make sense. To me, it was a bad strategy so close. But maybe good for other people, because I particularly liked it. Because I don't want no that PR bullshit you talking about, you for the people, you in the community, you want to build better relations, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, when you get the wink wink, you get the green light, you get the thumbs up, you heading out there and you cracking skulls, right? There's a whole bunch of people in NYPD that just gets a joy, get a tickle in their scrotum sack that they could go out there and bash some heads. That's why I have all these red flags coming up on Eric Adams and Yang, and who's the other one? Because we got the NYPD police union backing them. What's her name? Catherine Garcia. Really? That's a big red flag. Let me hear that sound. Big red flag. So how long I be going? I've been going on for hours. So my pick. I had Wiley at the top of the list, progressives. Diane Morales at the top of the list, progressive. And the other one, my man Stringer, another one. What's his first name? I'm scrolling here to see if I can find my man. I don't know. He's not even on this list, Stringer. So Stringer, I can't remember his first name, but that's another one, top of the list. But I'm not going to go for what you want me. I don't give a damn how much PACs are throwing the millions of dollars and dumping it into Yang, Adams, and Garcia. I don't care who. How much? I know who I'm picking. The people. I want the people to figure out who they want to pick. And hopefully the people are smart enough, and I said that on my Twitter account, the people are smart enough. After a certain time, people get hip to the game, and they know the politics and bullshit. They know the shit that's being shoveled in front of them, and they're gonna make an educated vote on who they want to turn things around. And it's not to say billionaires going to lose any money, because I hear the talk. I said it before. The billionaires, oh my God, is going to do all these things to the rich, the affluent. Ain't nothing going to happen to them. But what is going to happen is some choices, some opportunity, some revitalization is going to come into communities of color, and the black communities and brown communities. And everyone that just wants to get a fighting chance. That's what New York City is, isn't it? So that's my take on it. All right. So people, I'm going to get out of here. That was a short show, and as much as I could give it. And I'll be back next week with another show, man. And when I have all of my ducks in a row, I should have it. Just the initial ones, I can share with you what I'm doing, why I had to do the show the way I did it here. So thank you guys for listening. I always appreciate, and I can only keep it real with you guys. And I sincerely apologize for me not being on my game, because I don't want to be professing and talking and preaching to what you guys should be doing out there as registered voters. And then I don't do my due diligence, and I'll let you know when I drop the ball, and I sincerely apologize that I couldn't play a part in this voting process. But I will do what I can do to really get independents, giving them the ability to vote in primaries. That's what I will promise you in the future, because I am an independent. So please sign up for Lyfeblood.com, be a part of this better world, and I will see you guys next week. All right, peace.
Check it.
You just listened to GCOM Radio, powered by Lyfeblood.com for the global community.
We worldwide, baby.
See you in the next go round. From right here to your town, we out.